What's going on, y'all? Pee Wee the Plug, Big Stacks Porzingis, aka Mr. Know-It-All, #1 Knicks fan in the world, and I'm back. I've been going for a while. Just getting a lot of different things together as far as a podcast. We got a lot of different things going on. Trying to grow and develop that. I got style stuff I'm doing with the music and managing. And I got things that I'm trying to get together for future videos and stuff like that. So I've been, not neglecting the the YouTube channel, but trying to, touch up in other areas in my endeavors or whatever you want to call them, while also trying to focus on material for the future as far as this channel goes. I know a lot of questions, a lot of, talk in my comments about, am I still doing this? Am I still doing that? And of course, a lot of those things are going to continue. Nothing is discontinued. We're just preparing for a special time. Like, the NBA draft and free agency is a special time, and it's a time and moment that I have to capture and try to capture as best as I can, because if it goes, once it passes by, it's done. Once the draft is done, I can't, do player profiles or, mock drafts and things like that once it's gone away. So I have to take advantage of being in the moment, and then we can resume, the Marlins franchise or, my GM type things and all of that good stuff. But today I'm back with a video discussing Kevin Durant. Just solely Kevin Durant, and oddly enough, it's not really much to talk about as far as the NBA Finals are concerned as a whole. It was pretty much a sweep. And the Cavs, they played competitive for the first 3 games. The first game, we all know the J.R. Smith, George Hill debacle. The second game, they came out and still played close for like the first 4 and a half quarters. And then that last half of the fourth quarter was just a runaway. And then the third game was exciting. They had a chance. They stayed pretty close for the majority of the game. And then that one slipped away. The Warriors just, outpowered them. And then the final game was a little disappointing. You thought the Cavs would come out a little bit more aggressive and potentially stretch the series out as much as they could, but they didn't. But aside from that, as far as Kevin Durant, just reflecting and anytime the Warriors win a championship from here on out, we're going to be talking about Kevin Durant and the decision to join the Golden State Warriors. And after having, a series of conversations and observing other conversations through different social media platforms, whether it was Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, the finals is being talked about on all of those platforms. And, the general conversation through all of those platforms and the millions of people, surfacing on those platforms, the main thing is Kevin Durant. And, you got LeBron fans or stans who are bashing Kevin Durant, which is not what I'm here to do. You have Golden State Warrior fans or stans or Kevin Durant stans who are trying to justify Kevin Durant's decision and what he's done, and I'm not here to do that either. I'm actually here to say that I feel sorry for Kevin Durant, believe it or not. I really feel sorry for the guy. When I look at this situation, year in, year out, we're in the second year. We just ended the second year of this whole situation. And the more I look at it, it's just the more I feel bad for the dude. He made the wrong decision, y'all. He knows it. We know it. It's no secret. He made the wrong decision. And he got to live with that forever. And it's eating him up. He's not happy. He's not happy at all. And the hardest part about it is that he has to pretend that he is. And, in this new age generation that I've been blessed to grow up in and be a part of, we get to know these people. We get to actually know these basketball players on and off the floor at a level that past generations never got to see or experience. So what I mean is, like in the 90s, Twitter, Instagram, that wasn't around for Michael Jordan to show off his lifestyle or to let people into his life. But now with the internet and different things, like we can go back and look at where Kevin Durant's mom worked when he was a child. If I really wanted to know that, I could go find that out. I can go see what the inside of his house looks like. I can go find out what kind of cars he drives. I can find out if he has a brother, and if he does have a brother, what is his brother doing? Where does his brother live? Where did his brother go to college? You know, I can find out all of these things because we have that social media tool, or the internet tool, to find out all these things. And throughout that, you can find out who and what these people are, what type of people these are. For instance, J.R. Smith. Everybody calls him the Henny God and things like that because we know. We see what type of person he's been throughout his NBA career, of him, you know, being in clubs. It's things, you know, video clips and footage and pictures of him drinking and smoking and partying and clubbing. So we know he's that type of person. Versus the 90s, it might be some guys who was the same way, but we don't know because we didn't have that information or the tools to find that out. So we kind of know more about our stars off the court than ever before. So we all kind of know who it is that we're seeing. And we, you know, especially myself, I've been watching Kevin Durant since he was in high school. I kind of know what type of person he is. Whether he wants us to know or not, or the stars want us to know or not, we kind of see who these people are. And Kevin Durant is a competitor. You know, the Kevin Durant I know is a competitor. You know, even when he joined in college, he went to a pretty, you know, big university. Texas is a big university, but it's not a powerhouse. You know, he didn't join up with Greg Oden and Mike Conley in Ohio State and try to get this dynasty or unbeatable team. You know, he joined a team on a university that was fairly average. You know, without him, they probably would have been, you know, a couple games over 500. They were cool, but with him, they became, you know, elite. And even with him, they had moments of just being average. But, you know, he makes them, of course, elite. But, you know, even then, he was a competitor. He went to a low-key school, second overall pick for the Sonics. And you know, took pride in being the face of the Sonics franchise and their rebuild and being that guy. And then even with the Thunder, when they transitioned to becoming the Thunder, you know, when LeBron moved around and people were joining different teams, it's that famous tweet that's still out there of Kevin Durant saying, you know, why everybody joining up? Why is it cool to just play for like the Celtics, the Heat, or the Lakers? You know, and that's what tells me that he's a competitor deep down in his heart. So him joining a team that won 73 games, that had been to 2 back-to-back finals before he came, had a back-to-back MVP, unanimous MVP at that, the 2-time reigning MVP, in a team that he was essentially up 3-1 on. To see him join it just is not KD. It's not KD. And what makes me feel bad for him is the fact that we know it haunts him. The fact that he has the fake Twitter accounts and that whole situation. You know, it's not a lot of guys who are going to win a championship and win the Finals MVP, but still be on Twitter trying to explain themselves or reason or come up with excuses to justify what they're doing. That's out of guilt. That's because you feel guilty. You know what I mean? He won a championship and a Finals MVP, his first championship and a Finals MVP. Yet, a year later, after the whole situation was done, a year after this entire situation, he was still on Twitter trying to justify his decision. Because he knows deep down inside, it ain't right. Something wrong. And even if you look at last year's celebration, I didn't see the celebration last night. Once they won it, I left the place I was at to go home. But last year, watching the celebration and all of that, it was generic. It wasn't real. It wasn't authentic because it was just like, it didn't feel earned. It was just, and it's the same thing this year. Like I said, I didn't watch it, but it was just like the Cavs kind of gave them everything they had, and it still wasn't enough. You know what I mean? Like game 1, LeBron gives you 51. They are free throw away from having a 1-point lead with 4 seconds. Like, and that's the main reason I feel bad for him, is because I know it's haunting him, and I know what his legacy could have been. And if I know what his legacy could have been, he knows what his legacy could have been. Let's just take it into perspective for a second. The Warriors, 73 wins. They're in the Western Conference Finals against Kevin Durant, one of the premier players in our league. This, you know, top 5, top 3, no discussion. At that time, he he was probably being regarded as a top 5 player. You know, people were trying to see more and see him solidify himself as, you know, the guy next to LeBron. And that series was that. It was that. He was playing, you have this emerging superstar who hasn't won a ring yet. He's been an MVP, but he just hasn't had that success that everybody would have wanted him to see. He hasn't been that dominant force like a LeBron James. But everybody knows that Kevin Durant has it in him, and they want to see him because Kevin Durant is a good guy. Nobody is, you know, hoping Durant fails or anything like that. And he has the greatest regular season team ever with their back against the wall, down 3-1 with Russell Westbrook on his team, who people or the basketball community is saying is the most difficult player to play with ever, is Russell Westbrook apparently. Kevin Durant was having success on the highest level with the hardest guy to ever play with. So that speaks volumes to Kevin Durant and how good he is, number one. Number two, you have the Golden State Warriors, 73 wins, just won a championship, and you have a 3-1 lead on them. So here you are, Kevin Durant, one of the, like I said, premier supreme players in this league, top 3, top 2, top 5 guaranteed, and you have this greatest team ever down 3-1. You're 1 win away from going to the finals and potentially beating the best player in the game. That would have been a career-defining, legacy-defining moment for Kevin Durant to knock off the greatest regular season team ever. This team just won 73 games, just won a championship the year before. Their best player is a 2-time back-to-back MVP, reigning MVP, first unanimous ever. You just knocked them off with a 3-1 lead. You just knocked them off. Then you go to the finals, and you potentially can beat LeBron James. To have knocked off the greatest team ever in the Western Conference Finals, then go into the finals and knock off the greatest player, arguably, in back-to-back series would have been career legacy defining. That one ring, if he would have won that, because it's all hypothetical. They could have beat the Warriors and went to the finals, and LeBron could have destroyed them. But hypothetically, let's just say the Thunder win that, because if they could beat the Warriors or have the Warriors down 3-1, they have a chance to beat the Cavaliers. You know, Russell Westbrook and Kyrie, that's pretty balanced. And then the same thing with LeBron and Durant. LeBron is the better player, but both teams are pretty even. Ibaka and Kevin Love, it's very even. So it could have went either way. But if he potentially beats them, he just beat the best player, arguably, and then the greatest team ever in back-to-back series. And that, to me, it would have been the biggest thing that could have ever solidified his legacy more than anything he'll ever do with the Warriors. Unless Steph Curry, you know, breaks his leg and is out for the entire year, and Kevin Durant has to, you know, carry the Warriors for an entire season through the playoffs and they still win a championship. But that is unlikely. You know, that's very severe and hypothetical. But yeah, I just don't think any ring or any amount of rings that he'll win with the Warriors would have beaten that scenario of him being with the Thunder, knocking off a 73-win Warrior team, and then after that going into the finals, beating LeBron James, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Love in the NBA Finals, again his first ring with Russell Westbrook. That, you know, just thinking about that is just like it makes me feel bad for him, because I'm sure he's thinking about that. And, you know, he's a great talent. Whether you like him or not, Kevin Durant can play basketball. There is no reason not to like him besides this move. And it's okay to not like what he did and his decision, but you can still like him. His game is brilliant. It's a beauty to watch. He's 7 foot, can handle, shoot from 35 feet, will dunk on you, post you up, shoot 90% from the free throw line, off the dribble, off the screen. I like him. It's been situations the year Russell Westbrook got hurt against the Rockets with the Patrick Beverley situation. He was playing like point forward and was playmaking and playing point guard. That was beautiful. So Kevin Durant can play some basketball. He is a joy to watch. And but just thinking about that, it just hurts me and saddens me, because I know what could have been, and I'm pretty sure if I think that and I'm knowing that, that he's thinking the same thing. And it all makes sense. I mean, like I said, we talk about a guy who won a championship, won a Finals MVP. Apparently, that's the biggest goal, and that's the biggest thing you could ask for or achieve in this league. And even that, he still wasn't happy. You know, he was on Twitter trying to reason and explain himself a year later after the whole situation was over, because like I said, the guilt is there. He knows that he made the wrong decision, but he has to act like it's the right decision, which is, it's tough. You know, anytime you have to act like you're enjoying something that you're not, it's always tough. And you lose sleep, and it's a headache, and you find yourself trying to over-explain. You find yourself trying to prove yourself, which we've seen a lot from KD. The KD with the Warriors, his whole attitude and swagger and demeanor isn't even the same as the Thunder guy, because he's just going through a whole lot. Even with the technical fouls and his attitude and his big bad tough guy act he tried to put on with this Warrior team, even all of that is just fake and it's just not him. And that just lets me know that he ain't happy. He's just not happy. He's not happy. He's, you know, and it's sad, you know, but that's my whole thing, you know, and that's the reason why I feel bad for him, and that's why I think we should pray for KD, and I'm hoping that it's some type of situation later in his career where he can improve, because this is the same situation LeBron was in. Both scenarios are different, completely different. What they did are completely different. LeBron didn't join the team that had went to the finals before he got there. The Heat was not a powerhouse team that was going to back-to-back finals appearances and all that before LeBron got there. They wasn't winning 73 games. Wade was not an MVP. Bosh wasn't, you know, an MVP. It was nothing like that. They didn't knock him out of the playoffs and then he joined them. Those are two different situations. Two different. But when LeBron did join the Heat, he was definitely hated. I hated it. I didn't like it. But I hated it because I wanted him to go somewhere else. As a Knicks fan and being in Chicago, I either wanted him to come to the Bulls or go to the Knicks. He didn't do either. And I was just like, why are you joining this team? You know, they looked on paper much more better than they actually were, because Wade was always hurt and injured, and Bosh wasn't the same player. We all see playing with LeBron James as a big man, it's going to turn you into a standstill shooter. So he wasn't as good as he was in Toronto. And LeBron actually had to carry that team a lot more than we all imagined. But still, in that moment, I didn't like LeBron. But he redeemed himself with me and with the rest of the NBA fans when he went back to Cleveland, won one, and now he's faced against 4 All-Stars year in, year out, trying to beat this super team that was crazily put together that nobody respects, and now he's earning all that respect back. And I think LeBron James' legacy is being helped more and benefiting more from him losing than him running and joining another team to chase titles. You know what I mean? That's why when a lot of people ask me, what do I think LeBron is going to do? Where should he go? I say stay. You know, it's either two things for him to do, in my opinion. You go to one of the most storied franchises ever, who haven't won anything in years, Lakers or Knicks. You join one of those two teams. Both are big markets, New York and Los Angeles. Both haven't had any success in recent years. Both are storied and popular franchises in the NBA. And you take one of those franchises back to the promised land and help them bring home a championship. That would be big for his legacy. But Porzingis is hurt in New York, which would be a key factor in LeBron's success in New York. So he's not going to go there. And then the Lakers have a lot of youth, which they could trade and move around. But they're in the West. And in order for him to even get to the finals to compete for championships, they would have to year in, year out go through the Golden State Warriors. And then the Rockets are getting better. And the West is just a tough fight just in the playoffs alone, just to get to the finals. So that's hard. It's hard to imagine him going there. So instead of him doing one of those two moves, if he left, he would have to join like a Rockets team who just took the Warriors to 7 games in the Western Conference Finals and possibly could have won if they had CP3 for the last 2 games. And that him going to that team would be him just joining on some other bandwagon. He would just be joining on, you know, the James Harden, Chris Paul train, trying to chase rings. Him going to Philly, even though they're young, they still have 2 emerging guys who are going to dominate the league. He would just be joining on their coattail. So I don't think he should be running away anymore. You know, anything that he goes to, if he leaves, I think it needs to be a situation where, like I said, team wasn't in the playoffs before he got there, haven't had success at all, and he's taking them back to the promised land, and he's actually carrying and taking a team somewhere, opposed to joining a team that already has success, and he's just jumping on their coattail or on their train to chase rings. Because, like I said, that's just not respected. You know, at the end of the day, we all gonna look at those rings with a little funny, in our eye. We gonna look at those, you know, questioning with a question mark in our eye, like, what do we really think of those rings? Like for Kevin Durant, he can win, you know, 2 more rings. Kevin Durant can win 3 more rings. He can win 5 rings. Let's just say that the Warriors win 5 titles in 6 years. And that 6th year that they don't win, let's say Russell Westbrook wins it. Russell Westbrook's 1 ring compared to Kevin Durant, 1 ring will hold more weight and be more respected than all 5 of Kevin Durant's rings combined. Because that's what it's all about. It's how people view it and what it means. At the end of the day, when the Hall of Fame comes and they say Kevin Durant, he's a 5-time champion. First thing people gonna say to offset it is, yeah, but he joined a 73-win team. And that's the problem about his legacy, and why I feel sorry for him, and why I know he's not happy, is because he knows that in his mind as well. So we're going to continue to pray for KD and pray that down the line, sometime in his career, some opportunity for him to redeem himself or to, you know, fix this situation comes about. I think he's a hell of a player. I think he's, you know, even without these rings, if he would have retired that last year with OKC, he would have been in the Hall of Fame, one of the best scorers ever. But as far as his legacy and his entire career and solidifying that as one of the best players ever, him joining that Warriors team hurt him more than ever. Let me know what y'all think in the comments. Again, I'm not here to bash Kevin Durant. I'm actually a fan. I'm not mad that he left OKC. I'm just mad that he went with the Warriors. I'm not this big LeBron fan, like I said, trying to bash him. I'm not a KD super fan trying to justify him or anything like that. I'm just a basketball fan. I enjoy basketball, and I'm a fan of basketball, the game itself, more than I'm a fan of any of these players. I do have my favorites, Kobe, Penny Hardaway, things like that, but I love and I'm a fan of basketball more than any player. I'm always basketball with players, so there's no bias here. I'm just telling you what I think and what I truly believe. And you know, congrats to the Warriors. And yeah, let me know what y'all think in the comments. If you're new, subscribe, leave a like, holla at your boy. Big Stacks out.
Porzingis again!
That brought the crowd to their feet.